My name is Manson, and I'm from U of T Biomedical Communications program. I'm in the visualization stream, so I do animation and 3D modeling as well. And as medical and scientific illustrators, often we labor over our 3D models to make them scientifically accurate. But it's a shame that often when we show them in our portfolio, it's just a 2D still image like this. When my model is up here, you can't see the detail that I put into the other side of my model, such as like the acetabulum. So with Sketchfab, which is a free program, wait for it to load, you can showcase your model in an interactive viewer. And so you can see how beautiful my model is. But I'm sure you guys create much more nicer models than I do, but this can be easily achieved within just a few steps. So that's what I'm going to show you guys today, and hopefully when you leave this workshop, you'll have the skill sets to be able to upload your own models onto your website. So what Sketchfab is, it utilizes a technology that's called WebGL, and WebGL uses your browser to access your graphics processing card, so it produces rapid rasterized 3D images. So that's how you're able to get your textures rendered quickly on the browser. So if you'd like to know more about WebGL, and this is where I read up on it, is my classmate Joshua Lai, that's his head, but he did a post on his blog, which is not here, but I have the link up on my worksheet, and I encourage you guys all to read up on his blog. He gives a very good descriptive breakdown of what WebGL is and also how to make your own customized viewport. So if you don't want to use Sketchfab and you want to customize your own, you can read his blog about it. But today what we're going to do is use Sketchfab because we don't need to know all the inner workings of WebGL. We want something easy, quick, so we're going to use Sketchfab. And we're going to take, again, taking from my BMC classmates, this heart model that Andrew Tran has made and upload it, and I'll work you through that workflow. So first of all, you're going to need to get an account with Sketchfab, which there are two kinds of accounts. There's a free account and there's a pro account. And throughout this workshop, I'll talk to you briefly about the benefits of getting a pro account. There's a monthly cost of $10 a month, or you can just pay a yearly rate. But everything I'm going to do today is going to be on the free account. So I'm just going to log in with my account. Okay. So Sketchfab, one of the great things about Sketchfab is that it's an open community. You can share your models here. So if I wanted to upload my file, so before I get into how to uploading your files, I'm going to talk briefly about the options and the methods that you can upload your file. You can either get an exporter specific to your modeling program, such as Cinema 4D, ZBrush, or Maya, and that will streamline the uploading process to Sketchfab. But today, what I'm going to show is something that's more ubiquitous for all of us to use, because we all come from different training, we all use different 3D modeling programs, so we're just going to manually upload everything, which is still fairly quick, but not as quick as just clicking something from your program. So typically what you can do is put all your texture maps, your specular maps, displacement maps, and your 3D file. And Sketchfab supports up to 28 different file types. So today I'm going to use .obj. And if you zip them together in a folder, usually you can just upload it and your textures will load. But I have found that that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to manually upload them. So I'm just going to go through that today. So I'm going to select my OBJ file, click Continue. This is the heart of Andrew Q. Tran. Yay, Sketchfab. Choose a category, science, subcategory, science. And this was done in Maya. Andrew Q. Tran. Oops. Trans heart. Anyways, and so here is one of the things that you could do if you had a pro account, is that you can make this a private model. So if you didn't want your published model to be hosted on the Sketchfab site for people to look at, you can make it a private model. But we're using the free account, so I don't have that option. So let's continue.
You can always delete it off the server, right?
You can, but then let's say, for example, you wanted to host your model on your website, so you wanted to embed it on your website, but you didn't want it on the Sketchfab website. Then if you delete your model just doesn't exist. But if you have a private account, then you can put it on your website without it being shown on the Sketchfab website. So here's our model, no textures. And here you can take a screenshot to make a thumbnail so that when it loads onto your user's browsers, that's what it'll look like. But typically, I do this after I load all my textures. And so if you go into settings, 3D settings, so you'll be at the scene tab. And again, you can change your rotation of your model, your camera angle, and we'll come back to this tab at the end to set our thumbnail. But now I'm going to go into the material editors. So typically, if you had a zip file, all your maps would be loaded already, but today we're going to manually do it. So import image, find your file, so your texture file, and so you have all your textures. Put your specular map. So that's your, and then glossiness controls the sharpness of your speculars. So what's great about Sketchfab as well is that you can change everything real time. So you can modify this. And if this was not, if you found that this was too light or something, you could modify your diffuse map on Photoshop or whatever and re-upload, re-import an image and it'll replace it. So you can always update your models in that way. So something like that. In your normal map slot, you can put your displacement map as well. So I'm just going to load this in. Oops. So as you can see, it made a bit of a difference with my displacement map. You can see the vessels a little bit better. And this model doesn't have a light map or anything, but if you had a light map, you could also load that in, or ambient occlusion. And Sketchfab supports most of the maps that you typically have on your model, except some things that it doesn't support would be mental ray. So if you had subsurface scattering, then you would have to bake that in and bring it in that way. So this is just, again, you can play with these on your own, but a transparency channel. So that's not really what we want. Let's have that off. And emission would be something like if you had a tool that had a light or something, or a spaceship that had lights, then you can make those parts glow. And up here, if you had different materials that you set on your models, like a different diffuse map or specular map on different sections of your model, then you could load that in here, but this model only has one. And then environmental reflection. So let's go back to our scenes tab. This is where you can use HDR lighting. So if I had my model, let's put it in a popcorn lobby. So that's a wonderful place for a heart to be. So you can see it's reflecting. You can see that it's reflecting, so you can see the floor here. It's reflecting the environment in real time, which is pretty cool, but obviously not applicable to a heart. So I'm just going to turn that off. But what it would be applicable for would be something like a surgical tool. So I'm just going to jump over here for a bit. Oops, sorry. It's asking me to log in again. But I'll just show you an example of my model of a surgical tool where I use the environment. Sorry, just wait for a bit. You'll be impressed, I promise, maybe, maybe not. So here, if I turn on my environment and let's put it in Tokyo Big Sight. And here you can adjust your exposure, make it more reflective. So it gets more of a metallic sheen. Maybe more exposure. So you can play around with these settings, and you can also adjust how heavily it will be affected by the environment. So you can see it's more metallic now. But obviously you don't want a surgical tool to be featured in this random environment. So look at my model and look at this scenery. But, so here you can turn your environment off, but you're still using the image as your lighting source. So that's what the environment could be useful for if you wanted to use some HDR lighting. And if you had a pro account, that's where you could load your own environments. But these are the environments that they give you with a free account. So let's jump back here. So this model, obviously I could tweak a little bit more, have some more maps on it, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. So let's take a thumbnail. That's a good angle, maybe, yes? Beautiful, okay. So let's save settings. Saving. Okay. So oops. So publishing your model on your website is fairly easy. There are also plugins that are available. So if you use WordPress, there's a plugin that you can download to use directly. But again, I'm going to use something that everyone can use. So if you're coding your own website, then you can just use the iframe code that it gives. So if I click embed, you can show options. So here, if I click auto start, then that will start your model rotating automatically, as opposed to a play button where you click on it. So if you remember my hip model, it had a play button, you had to click on it, and then it started its functions. But if you click auto start, it'll rotate automatically, which for me, I don't think is the best option, because it could overload your user's browser. So I typically keep that not checked off. And I typically click hide model info, because if you don't, then at the top, it'll show the information that you have on Sketchfab, and they can click on it and go to your Sketchfab site, which for me, I don't really want them to be looking through my Sketchfab stuff. I'd rather them stay on my site. So I click that off. So let's copy this code. And one more thing, you can share it on Facebook if you want. Look at this cool thing I did. People can like it. That's good. Just by clicking on one of these things if you wanted to. it's pretty simple. It's just going to show you a face and then, yeah, share link. But, okay, so back to this. So I'm using WordPress here. Paste. And let's preview this. So there you go. It's published. So some things you might not want. Maybe this text over here you don't want. Also, it's not responsive right now. So if I changed my window size, it wouldn't. Sorry, I'm trying to. Yeah, it doesn't change with it. So on a mobile device, it would pretty much explode out of your website, which you don't want to do. You don't want it to retain this size. So I also didn't want this text down here. And I think most of us know a little bit, understand this. So you just take out this and just leave your iframe. And what an iframe basically does is it calls on, does everyone know what an iframe does here? Yes? Okay, so I don't really need to explain it, but it basically takes what is hosted on Sketchfab and brings it into your own HTML document. So to make it respond to the width of your browser, you can click, just make it a percentage, and I don't know, I want 500 pixels height. And let's preview this again. So that's closer to what we want. And that was really, really simple and something that you could do within a few minutes, which is great. Some other things that, another feature that I guess I could show you guys is that if you wanted to show your process work, you can also show the wireframe of your model. So if this is something that you're interested in, if you had a really clean mesh, like, well, sorry. Let's go back. So if you wanted to show off your beautiful clean mesh, you could show off your wireframe that way too. You get any color you want. So that's another cool feature that Sketchfab has. So, like I said before, WebGL is used. Actually, just bear with me for a second. WebGL will only work on browsers that support WebGL. So that's most browsers, like Internet Explorer 9 Plus will support it, Chrome will support it, Safari will support it. But just in case someone is viewing it on a browser that has WebGL disabled, for example, like Safari has the option of disabling WebGL, Sketchfab has a fallback where it'll render out a 3D image, a 360-degree image. So regardless, you'll always have, your user will always have something to view. So this is disabled. So you can see it's a little bit more pixelated, but it's a 300-degree image. So even, let's say your user is using Internet Explorer 8, 6, or whatever, it has this fallback where they can view it. Other things to keep in mind when you're uploading a model is that because WebGL uses your graphics processing unit and graphics card of the user's computer, that you want to keep your mesh on a lower range so it doesn't overload your user's computer. Sketchfab can support models up to 10 million polygons, but that's only dependent on how good your user's computer is. So I wouldn't be, if you had a really good computer, I wouldn't be uploading massive files. And I am also going to just talk briefly of Sketchfab's competitors or other things that are out there. So Murals is another one, and these guys have, so we can click to view this, have a little bit, they're a little bit more focused on their materials editor. So they do support things like subsurface scattering. And another thing that's great about them is that, I don't know if I can show you an example, but environments, their community is a lot more open as well. They can upload their environments and they can share them with each other if that's what they want to do. So if, I think this guy has an environment. So let's say, oh, that's just their model, but let's say that they had an environment of like a desert or something that they used in their model upload, and they were willing to share that with people, then you can use their desert and use it for yourself. And everything remains, they can't download your file, but they can use it within Murals. So it's the same with Sketchfab. No one can ever download your original 3D file, but it's available for people to view. The other one that I'm going to show you is, yeah, I chose this one because I thought it was an awesome little guy, is P3DN. So all three of these also use WebGL, and they support a large number of 3D formats. But what is the advantage of Sketchfab over P3DN is that you can upload zip files with Sketchfab, or you should be able to upload zip files. I haven't always found that that is the case, so maybe not a very good benefit. But with 3PDN, you also don't have the watermark logo that you saw with Sketchfab, so it's blank. But if you got a pro account with Sketchfab, then you can upload your own watermark, your own personal logo on there if you wanted to. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is that with a pro account, you can also get your own professional website. So this is something that you can get with a pro account, a website to feature your model. So this is what I was talking about with auto start, is that it'll rotate on its own. You can also control the speed of this if you'd like. See all your models. So that's how this website looks like. And what's wonderful is that if you're a student, if you email them, they'll allow you to use this site for free. So as a student, this is free. If you're not a student, then it's the pro account. And that's about all I have to say for now. And if you guys have any questions about this, you can ask me and I'll answer to the best of my capabilities right now. Any questions about how to embed or?
I think you did a very good job explaining the process, so not a lot, obvious questions, but you mentioned the mesh in particular. So I'm still kind of new to the 3D world myself, so
yeah.
Does that include, so I know for Cinema 4D we do sculpting. So we do a sculpt, we have to bake the model before we can put the, we have to resculpt on that way, or?
So if you look at the heart model, it's a very simple structure, but what's giving it the bump is the displacement map. So when you think about uploading these models, you want to think about real-time rendering, so like techniques that people in the gaming industry, for example, would use to quickly have real-time rendering would be using displacement maps, so that it'll show faster as opposed to the computer having to calculate it every time.
So those aren't real polygons, right? They're just
No.
kind of like, makes it look like it's got depth.
Yes.
Just,
Yeah. think I went a little faster than I thought I would, but any other questions? Alice?
This might not be related directly to Sketchfab, but just kind of interested to know how to some sort of action render. You can't upload.
Yeah. I was looking into it in Maya because I wanted to show it as well, but I wouldn't know how to do it in other programs, but I can show you another time in Maya how to do it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.